I tell my friends that I'm mad. I don't deny that, because you have to be, in Singapore, I would say you have to be mad in order to go against the government. Knowing the kind of constraint that TOC would have in terms of the intimidation that we get from the government, the kind of non-assistance that the government will provide, like not issuing a press release, will call you out for any inaccuracy straight in press, and not say a friendly phone call or email. And you have to think which person in the right mind will take up this job. My study has always been on engineering, particularly in electronics. Following that, went to army and turned into a full-time regular. And it was through there that I through my regular service, 5 years, that I got a different perspective of Singapore. After that, sold insurance. Following that, went to become a fire safety engineer. And that's before my stint as a executive editor for TOC. My father, mother thinks that I'm a shut-in. Because my mom and my father does not read news that much. They are not involved in politics. They are not so connected. So my father always asks my mother, like, why is my son always locked in his room doing nothing? What is he going to do with his career? So to my father, until the point where I appeared on newspaper for the criminal defamation, he has always thought me to be a shut-in. Yeah. After taking out the reins of TOC, I have made a personal decision to cut my ties with my friends. Friends with who I met over the years through community service work and etc. Because I through my conversation with them, I know that what I'm about to get into is definitely not something that they can bear.
It's very difficult, especially in a country like Singapore, for a journalist to operate, because if you read newspapers, if you read even online websites, more than 90% of the news comes via government. It's either government or companies that are linked to government. So nearly everything comes from government, right? So if most of your news comes from government, and if they don't talk to you, then how do you operate?
I founded the Online Citizen in December 2006 together with Andrew Lowe and a few other people. From a commercial perspective, it's a failure. But TOC as a project was never intended to or packaged itself as something that was intended to be commercially viable. It was always a passion project. By a group of people that believed that an informed citizenry needed to have access to alternative views.
Hello, you fool, I love you. Come join the joyride. This is TOC News Tonight.
TOC's stories always captivated me because it always presented in a different alternative angle, and there were a couple of stories that I felt that if not for TOC, no media outlets in Singapore would have carried the story.
here today to give our support to the rangers of Sungai Road.
Our guest tonight, we got a good one. It's Terry Shi, Editor-in-Chief of the Online Citizen. Welcome to the show, Terry.
Thank you so much, PJ.
It's really hard to overstate how important Terry is in holding that line. He's not journalistically trained, so there are people who take issue with the journalistic quality of the content, but that's a bit beside the point because TOC was always about political expression. It was always about an independent platform and a different perspective from government-controlled news.
This is really the biggest empowerment process in civil society.
A lot of good people were with TOC, but they had to leave because of financial commitments and other commitments. It was in 2013 when this offer was popped to me by Remy, asking whether would I be interested to take up the position as an executive editor. And frankly speaking, it's quite a tall order for me, given that I have no experience in writing. If I didn't take up this appointment, I felt that TOC would just wither into history. It would just close down without anyone feeling sorry for it.
In terms of achieving what we originally set out to do, Terry's kind of living that dream. Of course, that comes at the expense of financial viability and financial sustainability. And that's a price that Terry, to his credit, has been paying for quite a few years since he took over at TOC.
We'll be right back.
Would you say it's biased in its reporting sometimes?
That's definitely the perception. Our original response to that has always been that TOC was there to fill a space that other media were not in. So by definition, an independent news website that wanted to reach an audience that was politically aware or wanted to be politically aware would be covering events that the pro-government mainstream media would not, and consequently be perceived to be anti-government.
I think there's a great amount of suspicion of the online media that they are trying to, maybe subvert government, because they are so used to a media that is quite submissive, right? Now suddenly you get these new players and they are not playing by your rules, right? And I think it has made worse by the government cutting them off from press conferences, from briefings. So then they become pariahs, the media pariahs, right?
The media in other countries play different roles. These roles have grown out of their different historical experiences, their political systems, and their national temperaments. They represent equally valid functions which the press fulfills in different environments.
Lee Kuan Yew, of course, was the person who started it all, by wanting to control media. Finally, it has come to the point of what I call self-censorship. So government censorship is not needed anymore because the journalists have become so attuned to the government thinking that there is a lot of self-censorship.
One value which does not fit Singapore is the theory that the press is the fourth estate. And in Singapore's experience, because of our volatile racial and religious mix, the American concept of the marketplace of ideas, instead of producing harmonious enlightenment, has from time to time led to riots and bloodshed.
On the other side, the online media and I'm classifying them generally, who are anti-government. In everything that the government does is wrong. You know? So they are just taking the other extreme approach.
TOC does not aim to be balanced, neutral, etc. We seek to be the balance in terms of the media landscape in Singapore. We want people to carry that doubt, be critical of whatever that comes out from the papers, and with that mindset, with that objective in mind, right? It's very hard to say that we want to be so-called always neutral, always giving two sides of a thing. I would say, yeah, TOC takes a opposite end, so in order to balance the media landscape in Singapore. So the criminal defamation case is about a letter that was written by a contributor named Daniel Da Costa, who wrote in the pen name Really Some. So the charge that was upon me is saying that this particular line that alleged that there was corruption in the highest echelon, but the charge is referring that I'm alleging that the cabinet is corrupted. That's what the AGC has decided to charge me with, which is alleging that the cabinet members are corrupted. I really told my lawyers that I would not pay the fine. I will settle for imprisonment in lieu of the fine, because I think it's ridiculous what they're doing in terms of putting this nonsensical charge upon me. So I'm not willing. I would rather use the money to run TOC than to pay so not to go in prison.
How long will you go? What's the maximum sentence?
2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
Does that worry you?
No.
Not at all?
No. I'll take it as a break. Yeah. Yeah.
What are you working on today, Terry? What are you working on today?
So this is just an opinion piece about the POFMA, which is also known as the Fake News Bill.
We'll now proceed to declare the voting results. Aye 72, no 9, abstentions 3. The ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Protection from Online Falsehoods and Manipulation Bill.
POFMA is a bit of an omnibus bill in that it can be a lot of things to a lot of people. So if explained in the context of preventing foreign interference or the subversion of elections by foreign actors through the spreading of false news, that is one of the bill's objectives, and that is something that a lot of people, even in the West, might find unobjectionable.
That is why this POFMA legislation is necessary. It is an essential and important addition to our regulatory architecture that introduces a calibrated set of measures to deal with the virulence and virality of online falsehoods.
But POFMA also causes concern for those who believe in the importance of free speech.
I think this must be one of the most overused phrases. Free speech should not be affected by this bill. We are talking here about falsehoods, we are talking about bots, we are talking about trolls, we are talking about fake accounts.
TOC stand has always been that the public very well know what POFMA is about. It's just that government keep assuring that POFMA is used for a good purpose, is meant to prevent foreign intervention.
It depends on which provisions of POFMA you're looking at, but if you are concerned about free speech and you are looking at the provisions on the exercise of free speech in relation to government actors, there is some cause for concern.
It's doing a stranglehold on independent media like TOC. There are few causes that's inside the bill that I personally find really troubling, like the fact that the false statement or misleading statement that's indicated in the bill is detected by the minister. Just 3 such stories within a span of half a year could allow the minister to decide to detect that this particular platform to be named as a designated online location. And that would basically means that Singaporeans will be barred from accessing this location, and no advertiser nor subscriber can contribute to this particular site.
Do you think it has a potential for misuse?
Certainly, yes.
Why?
Well, first, the line between a false statement of fact and a false statement of opinion is not always clear. There are statements of fact that may be interwoven with statements of opinion. So it's not always that simple to say that this is a statement of fact or this is a statement of opinion.
It's really that scary that if any publication were to publish any unwarranted articles not that the government does not support, within 6 months, this government could close the site down for good.
It's to protect the government, not the people. It's to protect the government because they are the source of the biggest lies to be produced in this country. What? They control everything. They control the TV, the media, everything they control. So if they tell a lie, it's amplified millions of times. I became one of the first few volunteers of the Geylang Catholic Centre. What we did was to reach out to foreign workers, mainly the Malaysian workers. There was a group of garment factory women workers staying upstairs the centre, and we asked them to come down, and we started tuition classes for them. And then the centre was started in this way. Then there were volunteers coming in to help out. And then after some time, I actually also left the centre because you cannot do all this work forever. I was then more interested in the activities in the Law Society. So then I began to be involved in legislation. I felt that actually the government was making too many laws and that the Law Society was not doing its work by not discussing the bills that were presented. I didn't consider that as activism at all. To me, it was professional work. It's part and parcel of the duty of a lawyer. After all, we are educated in the law, and therefore we should have a say in what the government wants to do. Unfortunately for me, actually, I think the government, or rather Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, saw the potential in me that I was a potential troublemaker. Well, that was the beginning of all my problems, I think. This piece of artwork was given to me by my brother when I was in detention. It's a Chinese clock, stepped on it. So if the government step on you. We have no communist connection at all. By the 80s, I think communism has already died long ago already, So it's really bad allegation against us. But the newspapers, the mainstream media like the Straits Times, they faithfully reported everything the government said against us. The government has damaged our name so badly that after 30 years, we still have not recovered our good names. And that's very sad. And not only that, some of us really suffer from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and never recovered. For me, I think I can say that I've recovered, but some of them, I think at least 3 or 4 of them, are still suffering from PTSD. They don't want to talk about the past, and they have this great fear, or they have this idea that they are guilty and should be punished. I mean, it's crazy. There's a message here for me. There are no heroes, heroines, just what one wants to do for mankind. Teo Eng Seng, brother of Teo So Lang, with love and respect. Wow.
This is the first time we're having such a fundraiser and such an event. The reason for holding this fundraiser is to try to raise funds that will bring TOC, carry TOC over the next few months. If you say how much does TOC needs to run in a year, I'll put it as about 100,000 odd for annual expenditure based on the current capacity. Tonight, I don't think we can raise that amount, but it's actually just to kickstart the fundraising movement that will prepare us for the next general election.
I'd like to thank all the guests who have come here today. I think probably it's because not mentioning the fireworks. But in any case, I really appreciate the time taken for all of you to attend. There are just so many initiatives that TOC wants to do. It's just the lack of resources that bind our aspiration anchored in place.
The people who run such media must know to get funding is extremely difficult. We don't have people in Singapore, and when you say funding, is of course businessmen, right? People with money, who will put money in such ventures. Basically because of fear that the government will go after them. Whether that fear is true or not, that's a different story, but there is a fear.
One more. 1, 2. Harry.
Before my entry into army, I was a staunch PAP supporter. In fact, I often argue with people, even my grandfather, when they criticize the establishment. People are saying like, "Why are you so ungrateful?" It's like because the People Action Party that Singapore is it today. That's my belief back then. But after entering army, all that perception changed. Anyone who watched the movie Matrix, it is the same concept. It's whether you want to take the blue pill or the red pill. You can choose to stay in your fantasy land, your wonderland. But the thing is, one day reality will catch up to you. It's either you choose to open your eyes and see there's a world outside of what the media is painting to you, or you take a active role and seeing whether or not what the artist has been saying so far has certain backing to it. And this is where independent media exists in order to help them to reach out to more individuals, and for readers who wants to know more to see more and read more. And I think I'll just end with it.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us for this screening of An Online Citizen by Calum, Stuart, and for staying for the post-show discussion. My name is Lynn, and I'm with Terry Shi, the former editor-in-chief of the Online Citizen. We have about 45 minutes for the discussion, so we'll try to get as many questions in as possible. You can type them into the chat box on your screen. Hi Terry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, let me start by asking the first question. The film premiered in 2019. A lot has happened since then. Right. And I think for us as followers of TOC, the most striking thing that's happened is that the Online Citizen is now offline. What happened? Why was it taken offline, and what has happened since?
So first, I would like to correct you. It's not former. It's still it's just temporary. So as I promised in the statement in September, I believe it was 16 September, that TOC has to be taken down due to IMDA's orders. It is temporarily suspended because due to the cancellation of the class license by IMDA, I have no choice but to take down the website and the social media platforms associated with it. So your question about like what brought about this is that since 2014, IMDA has requested TOC, this website, to be licensed under this particular class license. This class license is very special in the sense where there's only two websites in Singapore that is subjected to this class license. One is TOC, the other is Independent Singapore. So this class license is not the same as what the other websites in Singapore are subjected to. The other websites, the other 11 websites that has the same, another class license registration that is only for content specific, which is so if you do recall in 2013, so you have this class license that requires a $50,000 bond. So this particular to content only. Whereas for what TOC is subjected to, TOC and TISG is subject to is we have to declare our source of funding. So the source of funding, I believe there's only four main categories. One would be the donation, then you have the subscription, you have the local advertisers, the foreign advertisers. So you have this 4 main declaration. So since 2014, we have been making the declaration as required by IMDA, because if not, we would have to close down the website. It was only in 2019 where they came back to me, asking this question: why is it justified for your subscribers to be paying this amount for the subscription, which was, but I think at that point of time, $10 a month. So they were asking, say, "Oh, you can you justify to IMDA why are you charging this amount for your subscribers?" So in other words, they were asking, no, not asking, they are demanding that the subscribers be turned into donors. The difference between donors and subscribers is that as subscription, I only have to lump them together as a lump sum. So I'll inform IMDA how many subscribers I have, how much a subscription I collected. But what they are asking for in 2019 was that I have to list down each and every subscriber with their name and NRIC and the subscription that they have paid. So this was a huge drastic change from what the licensing regime that TOC was being put under for all these years. And so in 2019, we have made our submissions. And in 2020, we wanted IMDA to clarify if this was what they wanted, which is to have the subscribers turn into donors. Because if this is what they insist on, there's no way that I can comply, because the agreement that that TOC had with the subscribers was that the only thing needed of them is that you submit your monthly subscription, you tender your monthly subscription, your email address that we send the weekly newsletter to, and that's the basis of that. So since we did not comply with the 2020 declaration, they gave us an ultimatum, and we did not comply, and they decided to cancel the class license.
The mainstream media hasn't really covered this very well, because what they repeatedly said was that you refuse to disclose your funding sources, and the focus was on one particular funder, wasn't it?
So I think they were conflating a lot of stuff together. So it was right that in 2020 we did not declare the source of funding. That's undeniable. But in the 2019 declaration, which IMDA took issue with, it is not the case that I did not tell them the names. In fact, I gave the name. In fact, since we are here, maybe I'll just share this. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
As in, can you see the document?
I can.
Oh yes, okay.
I don't know if everyone else can.
Yeah, I believe they can. So I believe this is a document that I submitted. Yes, okay. So I blanketed off all the particulars. So this is what I submitted to IMDA. So it's not that I didn't give them the name. The name was given. It's just that we were unable to obtain the passport NRIC number for this person. But however, I know for sure that these people are Singaporeans. So it is an interesting case where I know this person is Singaporean, but I don't know the NRIC number of this person. And this person is saying willing to actually donate this sum of money to TOC. So
does IMDA know this person's name in that case?
Yes, IMDA knows this person. So they are just simply insisting that, oh, where's the NRIC number? So to them, right, is that without the NRIC number, this person is not a Singaporean in what they are trying to actually argue for. But it's very clear that from the records, because this money came through the bank, so clearly they would know, they have the ability to tell whether or not this person is a Singaporean or not. In fact, if this two person is not Singaporean, they would have jolly well come after TOC and say that, okay, you have received funding from a foreign source. They would have would definitely have done that without even coming to me and asking me to justify who this two person is.
So in other words, it wasn't a question of your refusal to disclose this person's identity. It was your inability to get his NRIC number.
Yes, that's right.
There's an interesting comment here from one of the viewers, and this person says, can we have the names of the subscribers of the Straits Times? which was, I guess, basically what was being asked of you in terms of
Yes, exactly. It is so and it's so convoluted in the sense which media outlet in Singapore that charges subscription, whether is it magazine, whether is it in terms of a weekly newspaper, does IMDA require them to submit the names of the subscribers? And you could be in a situation where they don't really get the value, or they don't even read the newspaper. Like a lot of people subscribe to Straits Times, but they don't read the newspaper. They just subscribe out of habit. So can IMDA go after them and say that, oh, what kind of value do your subscriber get from it? Because they're not watching the website at all. So I find it very hard to accept the kind of so-called requirement they are throwing upon TOC.
So yesterday, or well, earlier this week, there was another new development, wasn't there? Your application for judicial review was turned down. So maybe can you explain a little bit more about that decision?
Okay, let's talk about the application first. The application is not to overturn the cancellation of class license of the website, because we accept that the class license is for the purpose of that website, which is the onlinecitizen.com. But what we do not accept is that the class license pertain also to the social media platforms, as well as the other languages, the alternative languages of TOC. Because the Form C clearly states that it's only pertaining to the website. Okay, again, I think it's good that we go and look at this. Because I think it's very weird that the judge can come to her judgment. Because if you were to look at the Form C that we are asked to sign, the class license only refers to the computer online services residing on the URL www.theonlinecitizen.com as described in the Form C, the website. However, in her judgment, she stated that the class license encompasses everything, the social media platforms and the other language, which clearly is not covered under this particular form. So what this says is that you can sign a contract that states the terms and conditions, and then subsequently the other side could claim that, or your contract covers other thing that is implied, which is not covered under this contract, which I really cannot accept. And any lawyer looking at this would also do not accept this. But given the turn of events in terms of how the judge has written the judgment, I have no plans to appeal this judgment, because in a way I also gotten what I wanted from the judicial review, which is to state that the website could operate from outside of Singapore. Because while the judge states that we misread the letter from IMDA, but the letter clearly, in fact, the follow-up demands from IMDA clearly says that TOC is not to operate any websites. There's no caveat in terms of, you can in or from Singapore. Their position is that I don't, regardless whether is it in from Singapore or outside Singapore, their position is that we cannot operate anything at all.
So that means that doesn't just apply to the onlinecitizen.com, it applies to your social media sites, it applies to Twitter, it applies to everything.
YouTube, and also we are barred from applying for any new websites.
So just now you said that you're not the former normal editor-in-chief of the Online Citizen. You're still the editor-in-chief of the Online Citizen. Given that you're barred from operating basically anything, how are you? What are you going to edit?
So there are still things that we are doing, but just that because we have no platform to publish. So as I promised the supporters of TOC and all those people who have contributed to its survival all these years, that it will continue still running, but it would come back in a different form. So I would say it's on hiatus. And the judgment makes it that it is not dead. The website is neither banned, neither barred from operating. It's just that we cannot operate in and from Singapore in its current form. Yes.
Are you able to divulge any of your future plans?
Not at the moment. As what I told to the media that I would have to clear all my cases, my court cases pending, whether is it criminal, whether is it civil, whether is it all my application. Like example, there's still ongoing POFMA application that TOC is making. That I want to actually clear them before I would have a clear state of mind on what kind of challenges will I face in the near future.
We have a question here from a viewer, Chu Chin Xiang, who wants to know what about donors who want to remain anonymous? Is that possible?
For
I guess for TOC in its previous
the new form
or the new form.
Oh no, so okay, I can divulge something which is in its new form. I believe there's no need to even declare the donations if there's any. That why I can divulge. Yes.
Okay, but previously it was not possible.
It's not possible, and which is why I say it to operate in Singapore as independent media as what TOC is, right? It's pretty much impossible because the establishment tries to strangle independent media by means of limiting where they can get their source of funding, and we can see from the media outlets in Singapore that they require a lot of support from the establishment, whether it's whether it's informed in terms of allowing press media accreditation, embargoed information, editorials that are way above the market price. So the certain establishment, certain media outlets basically survive based on this, and which is why we are come to this stage where your Singapore Press holding is now changed to a trust instead of running as a real media company.
And then we have another question here. What support can the public render to TOC?
Not at the moment, but just keep out for the latest development, because it's as the Chinese saying goes, 欲速则不达. There's no need to rush to have the independent media as in for TOC to revive when everything is not clear. Especially at this point where there's an introduction of a new law, FICA, and we don't know the implication that it will bring about. Whether would me or some other people be declared as political significant individuals and etc. So I believe it's important for us to it's important for myself to clear all my ongoing court cases and then to see what the law has to say, as a law have to show. For example, how POFMA was applied back then. So now given that POFMA has been used and has been challenged by court by TOC 3 times in the past, we roughly know where we stand when it comes to writing news and stories. How would we be able to defend ourselves, or how would it be? How should articles or news be written so to prevent the use of law, for example? So when it comes to FICA, it's the same thing goes.
Tell us about your, various court cases. I think you've been very busy dealing with, a whole string of them.
So that's what I always answer my friend when they say, how's your court case? My question back to them is which one?
Which one?
Yeah, which one? So I think I started off with a criminal defamation from in 2018. Following that will be a civil defamation suit from Lee Hsien Loong. That was in 2019. Subsequently, in 2020, I think in 2019, I also had another contempt of court case. Is in regards to a Singaporean who was held in Malaysia for 3 months without the Singapore police actually knowing. Then in 2020, there was another contempt of court case. And then on and off, we have this three POFMA application that we made. Yeah, so I think that's all for now. Yeah.
But recently you were found guilty of criminal defamation.
Yes.
are you, well, I mean, I know you told me that you're prepared to go to jail, but
Correct.
I guess most people would want to understand the logic behind that. Can you explain?
Okay, so the prosecution have asked for a imprisonment sentence for my charge. So I believe that it's very likely that the imprisonment would stand, and I would like to go for the sentence first while my lawyers proceed with the appeal. Reason being because if I were not to serve my sentence while doing the appeal, I would be kept here in Singapore. I wouldn't be able to travel, and there's a lot of restriction that will be placed upon me if I were not to serve the sentence first. So even though there's a chance, okay, I wouldn't say chance, a slight chance that I would come out innocent, and then them barring the sentence that I served to be like in vain. But I think it's okay because it's I think it's still relatively short compared to what we have anticipated, because we have anticipated the the imprisonment term to be like in months, but it ended up in weeks. So I think it was acceptable. And I think it's also a statement to I think the public on my end, because since I think the rights media reported that I'm willing to go to jail forever, but let me clarify that that's not the case. I think they phrased my words wrongly. My point was that I think it's okay. I'm willing to go to jail if the purpose is deemed worthy, because I always look up to individuals, say Chi Chun Chuan, and the OLEF, who have been in prison for far long term, just simply because of their belief. And if I were to put myself in their shoes, right, I would say I pale so much in comparison to what they have contributed. So for me to go through that short period of imprisonment, I think is nothing. Yes.
I have a couple of questions here from the audience.
Yes.
Hui Hian asks, can an influencer report current news? They don't have to get a permit to be an influencer, right? So I guess this points to a certain double standard.
So it can, he or she can, as an influencer, report news. But because of the introduction of the law, in fact, before FICA, you will be subjected to under POFMA. Then with FICA, then what would happen next is that if what you're reporting is like something that is not to the advantage of the establishment, then it's very likely that you'll be deemed as a PSP, a political significant person. So that would mean that you would have all your finances scrutinized by the establishment. And if the minister deems it worthy, or he finds that there's suspicion in terms of what you propagate, there can be order upon you to say that anyone who contribute financially to you, or you solicit money for your purpose of doing this, you'll be illegal. And this is why I come to this conclusion that after FICA, it's impossible to try and to be independent in any way, because of course you can try. Like as an influencer, you can do that, but be prepared that whatever you do, you cannot monetize as to sustain yourself. So you have to do it bona fide.
So
yes.
For audiences who are not, for audience members who are not from Singapore, FICA is our foreign interference law that was passed recently and will be enacted soon. And so in other words, what you're saying, Terry, is that it will apply even if you're an influencer. If you talk about things, or if you engage in activity that they deem that the Minister for Home Affairs deems worthy of being designated PSP.
And it's so ironic that it only applies to a local influencer. if it's a foreign influencer speaking on issues such as this Polish blogger, so this Polish blogger, whatever he says, whatever he does, because he's a non-Singaporean, FICA does not apply to him. And this is why it's so ironic that you have this FICA, but yet it only applies to locals.
So,
yeah.
So like if you're a foreigner talking about the same issues, then you're less...
You're not subjected to that. Yeah.
There's a question from John Teo. Terry, do you have any plans to go into politics directly by joining an opposition party?
No, this is a question that a lot of people ask me. In fact, the parties also ask me. But my reply is always right. The problem that Singapore has is not about not having the right parties. It's not that you don't have the right candidate. Okay, sorry, I take back my word. You still need a lot of right candidates. But what is most pertinent the problem in Singapore is that the people do not see the problem. People don't understand what contributes to their problem that they face. It's just that they feel that life is stressful. There's a lot of problems that they see in their life, in their employment, etc. But they don't understand, or they cannot attribute to like what's causing it. And this is where media comes in. You need people to really look into the issue and then dig up and explain to people what is causing all these things. And only then you can have political parties able to make certain agendas, certain pitches to say, okay, I will resolve this problem. But as it stands today, the political parties have no ground to stand because the government always says that, oh, the problem comes from the people. It is your own issue that you're facing all this issue. And the reason why you're still surviving is because of the party that's running the country. So we need to have a environment in which the problems can be rightfully discussed, and having the I wouldn't say the best solution, but having the pros and cons of different solutions to be worked out. Minimum wage, for example. So, and this is why I believe this is one cause I would want to go on to work on until the day where really Singapore have a vibrant independent media environment, which I really don't think is possible as it stands because of the laws that are in place today. Is impossible. And which is why I'm not saying that TOC is the only solution, but it's just that the existing media outlets would not see it feasible to emulate TOC or even do anywhere close to what TOC is doing, because TOC is an example set up for them by the establishment that if you were to go on this route, we will definitely force you out from the market.
So I guess this question is linked to that. Do you have any advice for newcomers wanting to publish alternative views? Given the media landscape in Singapore.
Okay, I think one advice is that don't believe that you can be anonymous. A lot of bloggers, people who write on social media, they think that they can be anonymous by posting stuff. Don't believe that, because the moment, unless you're willing to go through like 7 rounds of VPN every time you make a post or when you access your account. If not, just simply you have one lapse, one occasion where you access directly using your handphone device, etc. The government will be able to trace back to who is the owner of that particular account. And that's the advice that I would give to people who wants to do independent media, independent publication, and wants to keep themselves outside from the picture, as in outside from away from trouble from the establishment. You cannot, the only way of not getting into trouble would be writing stuff that would not antagonize the government, which is frankly then defeats the purpose, because the idea is to actually create some tension, some traction within the public discourse to have the government to address. You look at the issues that has come out in Singapore so far. if there's no public opinion, a strong public opinion on certain issues, right? You think they will come out and address the matter? It's very unlikely so.
Yes. Paul, Dr. Paul Tambia is asking.
Okay. Hi, Dr. Paul.
Can someone step into the space, or rather the huge gap left by the TOC shutdown?
So I think it's definitely possible. I believe it's definitely possible. Anyone could actually just come in. And end of the day, it's like just me running TOC. So anyone could come in. It's just that how do you sustain? It's just like Breakfast Network. Breakfast Network only lasts for like I think probably 2 years odd. I think soon after the general election was over, they had to close down because there was no funding coming in. So it's very easy to come in like a sprint, but can you carry on like a marathon? That's the question, because you can get initial seed money to, okay, let's do this, then do that, and do a lot of like special stories. But how long can you keep this branding? How long can you keep this work on? Because as you can see a lot from our startup, eventually these people want to split if there's not enough money coming in. So, and different people have their own strength, and then they will end up splitting up and doing their own publications. So it's always the same thing. Like it's the same as political parties, because of the environment in which Singapore creates. Therefore, organization, entities, individuals always behave in a certain manner. I'm not really saying it's individualized, but if you don't have a person who's willing to go crazy and then challenge everything, then it's very unlikely that you will even see TOC as it today. Because a lot of the things that is done is because this person is willing to go against the current. Because and I would dare say this is what baffles the government as well. It's like, what is this guy doing? Why is guy doing this? What is doing it? And
why Terry?
And they clearly can see my bank account and see that, hey, this guy is not even getting money. So why is he doing all this stuff?
Yeah, why?
I believe it's same as what I told the rights minister. It's just that I think after what I've experienced in my early 20s, right, I think I just found a different path in life. Like some people go for like missionary, some people go for charity. So I think this is a route I chose, which is to talk about like, especially when it comes to Singapore, what Singapore lacks is really independent media. A platform or a place where people can really voice their discourse. And just a sidetrack, some people think that everyone have social media. You can just simply make the post on your social media and people can see. But you can realize that you do observe that there are a lot of people who articulate very well in their words on certain issues, like for example the recent Raisa Khan saga, but they do not have the reach. And this is why you need a platform to help to showcase all these people's thoughts, collate all these issues, all these thoughts together, and disseminate to the people. Because the people cannot be following this person like always, and when this person only publishes like 3 times a year, or another person who only publish like 10. So it's easier if there's a platform to help to collate all these people and sometimes to seek their views on certain issues. So social media cannot replace the presence of a media outlet to deliver the thoughts and opinions.
We have a comment here from John Chio. He says, Terry, but as things stand now, you need to be able to amend the law for independent media to be able to operate independently. And with commercial viability. It's not a chicken and egg issue.
In fact, it's a chicken and egg issue. Isn't that? In fact, that's a chicken and egg issue, because we all know that in order for a media outlet to sustain, as in all countries, but because you're unable to solicit all this money, because you can't, the law is there to prevent you from doing so, and therefore you can never survive. So unless that thing is resolved, if not, there's no independent media. Yeah.
So
I don't think it's not the chicken. In fact, it's a chicken egg thing. Yeah. It's a catch-22. Yeah.
So what kept you going for so long? I mean, to keep TOC going, you suffered financially, you lost a lot of friends, you might even lose your freedom. It's a lot to pay to keep this platform open.
I would attribute to the kind of stories that come up to me. Like, so you would have some day that say you might want to give up, you don't want to continue this anymore, but you end up being faced with a story that is so ridiculous, that this person is facing such issues with the establishment, or this person is being bullied by certain company, and this is where because I have this power, I have this platform, and this is the only way I can help this person. Because if I am not doing what I'm doing, I do not have the money to help them, but then I have the reach and I have the means of assisting this person through my work. So if I'm not doing, it's just like a superhero. If you were to give up your superpowers, then you're just a normal person. You yes, you can go back to your normal life, but then all these people in trouble, you cannot help them. Yeah.
Do you still get emails or phone calls or messages from people in trouble saying, "Hi Terry, I facing this problem or that problem"?
So that no, because what people do, right, is often they would go on to the social media to write into us, or go to the website to get the contact details to write into us. So the fact that you have the website and then the social media turned off, therefore people do not know how to contact me. Yeah, so we do not have that. I have one or two sporadically, but it is drastically went down after the site and the social media went off.
So do you think that anyone can ever fill that gap? I'm going back to Paul's question again.
It can. I think but the question is who? It's like it's possible. It's definitely possible, but it's just a matter of who. So when I say who, is like who with enough money will be willing to put his or her neck out on the chopping board when he or she is actually in a good state. Then you have the situation where you have people who have nothing to lose, but then they do not have the, I wouldn't say skills, but the so-called attributes to run a media outlet. So it's when the so-called the cross doesn't match. When you are rich, you don't want to offend the establishment because you know that you're going to give up a lot of stuff. But when you have nothing to lose, right, then you would likely take up this responsibility, but then you do not have the attribute to meet the requirement to run a media outlet. So which is why I don't want to say this, but which is why you have people running for candidacy election, because the bar is very low. You just have to be a Singaporean to run for as candidate. You don't really have to say, I need certain skill set in order to run. So for a media outlet, you need to have certain skill, you need to have certain understanding, you have to certain ability to comprehend like policies or issues in order to articulate to the audience. You cannot just you cannot be just simply running a platform that rent. Like, of course you can just run that, but no one would bother about this publication. Yeah.
Okay, I've been told to wrap up, but I think
Yes.
I want to wrap with this final comment from Hui Hian.
Yes.
She says, "Thank you, Terry, for allowing a very open, diverse platform. Really, no other groups have been able to keep that open-mindedness." So I think a lot of people are very grateful for all that you've done.
Yes.
I hope you update us all on your future plans soon, because people want to know how to support you and what we can do to keep TOC in, or whatever the new version or the next version of it is, how to keep that going.
Correct. I think there's still a long way. I think democracy does not come in a short burst. It's a long journey, and which is why I refer to it as a marathon. You cannot have people coming in and just thinking to fill up the gap for a short short period. You need a player that will be here for the long run.
Okay, so I think that's it. We're wrapping up. We can wrap up now. Thank you, Terry, and thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you everyone for being with us on this discussion and also watching the show just now.